so we grew up with three languages.
Right.
The Spanish, we were speaking a lot of Spanish words, and the German and the Norwegian, but we were to speak proper English. But when they went to school, I had a report, or I had a paper, I don't know if I still have it, that named all the kids in the country school, and it was bad and all. But when they went to school, they couldn't speak English. When they started school, they
Really?
couldn't speak English. Because they've been raised with total Norwegian.
Yeah.
But yeah, Grandpa came every Sunday. The boys would go get him. Never drove a car. He'd bring us peppermint candy, big fat peppermint candy. And when we went to visit him in town, he would always eat potatoes and lefse. He'd boil potatoes and then he'd have lefse. And he did.
But lefse is potatoes too.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he didn't always have lefse
Mm.
because nobody'd make it, I suppose, for him or somebody. And he made beer. Grandpa made beer. Grandpa Faldo had this little funny house, and the basement was outside with a trap door.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd walk around, a trap door.
The cellar.
And so he made beer in these big cracks.
Oh, he really made beer.
Yes, he did.
Hmm.
And he would drink beer. Then he had a big garden. I thought it was big. He had a big garden, and he mowed his lawn with the push mower. And he died when he's about 84, I think.
Yeah.
But
So could he speak English well? Do you remember? He must have had a very thick accent, I
Yeah.
would think.
But he spoke English well. But whenever they came on the farm, they'd sit and talk Norwegian. And so Mom really could understand Norwegian before she got through with her. So that was Grandpa, but we saw him every week.
Mm.
I think every week. And then Uncle George would bring Lombertberg, which was a wonderful man.
Yeah.
He trained for the Kaiser in Germany.
Really?
Yes. And he was very, very straight, real smooth skin and thin hair. Or
Because they came over in about 1902.
I suppose.
Yeah. They came into
And
Baltimore.
And Josie and somebody else were born, they were kids when they came over.
Right. Ubi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Josie and Yubi. And Yubi was quite a guy. Oh gosh, he was a funny guy.
But Lambert trained
For the
for the Kaiser.
Mm-hmm. And he
It's
always...
lucky he got out of there.
Yes, he was. And he always had a German paper that came from Chicago. And he had some relatives that came here, but Grandma didn't, the Fredericks. And during the war, it was very tough because they had family in Germany
Oh, yeah.
fighting against their grandson. That was really tough. And around Buffalo Center.
And they had just moved here. I mean,
Yeah.
they within 10 years or something. So
Mhm.
they were. It wasn't like they had lived here for 30 or 40
Mhm.
years.
And they were, Grandpa was really kind of a refined man, I thought. And Grandma, Janie looks just like Grandma Berg.
Hmm.
She's got her nose and her thin hair, and Grandma Berg, you could
Short.
look over her head.
Yeah.
She is, her nose and her mouth, because I remember Grandma Berg, kind of a round face. She reminds me exactly
Hmm.
of Grandma Berg, just exactly. And I think Gerald reminds me of the Bergs. Yubi would blow and do all this kind of thing, talk and talk. That's the way. That's it. Orvin was more like the Walrus,
Yeah.
but not. I think Gerald was like the Bergs. But then, like I said, Grandma Berg, and they always had tea. That's where I learned to drink tea.
Right.
We'd go down. I told you we'd go down there and stay with
But
her.
that actually, from where they came from
Yeah.
in Germany, that was the tradition. That east or west Friesland.
Yeah.
that portion of Germany,
Yeah.
that afternoon tea
Mhm.
was part of that
Yeah.
that culture.
And
Coffee in the morning,
yeah.
tea in the afternoon.
They'd get up early in the morning. Now, I don't remember Grandma. You know, everybody had cows and they had chickens and geese and everything on their farm. It was fun to go. It was a little old house.
Mhm.
And it had a two-story, but it was a little old house, but we loved it.
And this is outside of Rake, or outside of Rake.
Rake.
Right. Yeah.
Close to state line.
Okay.
And they were people with very much routine. Get up early in the morning and go out and do the chores. Come in and have coffee and breakfast, usually eggs and potatoes. I remember eggs and potatoes and some bread. And then we'd eat at noon, a lot of cabbage and kind of traditional German things, I think. And of course, everybody had meat because they raised ducks and geese or whatever, cows and
Pigs.
so everybody had meat and stuff, young pigs. And then then there was tea time. Grandma would, I can smell that tea. She had a big loose tea, not tea bags, and this kettle with hot water, and she'd line the cups up and pour the tea and put sugar in everybody's tea and put cream in everybody's tea. I can smell it to this day. Because once there was a place in Buffalo Center that had imported tea from Germany, and it smelled just like Grandma's.
Oh.
Could remember that so well. And George and I would go there and stay with them. I don't know where we slept. I can't really remember. But we wallpapered her pantry once. The two of us. How did we do that? I don't know. And then we'd go to town, and there was a German that ran the grocery store, John Moss, and they all talked German with him. And things were in bulk, and you told him what you wanted, and he had a long, what would you call it, that would pinch things down, you know.
Okay.
And then there'd be those barrels with peanuts and pickles and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And he was a very handsome man. I had a beautiful wife and two beautiful girls. And I lived in that house that I bought that had been once belonged to them in Rake when I had that little house, which I never should have sold. Anyway, we had a very good time with them, and they were fun. They were less conservative than the Valdas.
Yeah.
Valdas were kind of proper, and for many years, I sense this now, that they kind of bossed Mom around because she was so young, you know, and she didn't know how to make Norwegian dishes. But they
She must have
came-
been very young because she was, I mean, Grandpa was the youngest of
his family.
his family, and she was so much younger than him.
Hmm. She was young. She was a teenager.
Right.
And I can remember them coming over. Times, Arlene did like kind of bossing Mom around. In fact, when Mom named me, she wanted to call me, I think, Lois Arlene, and they said, no, she should be Betty Jean. And they changed the name. That, I mean, before I was baptized, I remember them telling me that Aunt Emma or somebody said I should be Betty Jean. So they
So
named
that
me.
was
And
what
then
was
she had
named.
another girl and she named, Arlene. Isn't that funny? But then Mom got pretty spunky, But Arlene said, oh, now I don't remember. Well, I remember they used to come over and be so proper. Arlene says, I can remember once Aunt Ida looked behind the piano. Because things couldn't be as tidy with so many kids and no money.
Yeah.
But Mom would always bake bread, homemade bread, because that would be part of her heritage.
Mhm.
And Arlene said, they'd come over and they sure liked Mom's hot rolls and things she made, but they never brought anything. But they were always there for baptisms and confirmation and graduation. They all came over for that. But I think it was kind of difficult for Mom because they were older
Yeah.
and had more money, some of them, and were ultra conservative, and the German immigrants were more casual. You know, Grandpa and them lived on that farm 50 years and never bought it because they paid cash for everything, no bill. They lived on that farm 50 years and never bought it.
Really?
No. And of course, that's all torn down now. There's no evidence of it at all. But I can remember a lot of happy times with them at Christmas and stuff. But on the Baldo side, they weren't there at Christmas. But Bergs were. And we had a lot of good times going there. George was so funny. Then George, when they left the farm, Grandpa died, Grandma died. And then they moved into Wells. They had 8 children, you know. Uncle George had 8 children, only 2 boys. And the oldest boy died. But all the kids have done well and had nice families and stuff. And Aunt Helen lived to be, she finally went to a nursing home when she was about 90 or something. I went to see her, and she said, "You should see that doctor. Is he good looking?" I mean, she said that. And she lived there. She wasn't too happy, but the kids lived in Elverly, so they visited her a lot. And they've all done well, except Florence, never married, and then she had this boy, and she wouldn't marry that person. And the boy's kind of a rascal, I think. Kind of a rascal. I don't know, spoiled and but all the kids have done really well. So that was Uncle George's family. We're pretty close to them. But they were younger. Most of them are younger than we are. Much younger. Like Butch couldn't have been much more than, if he was 70, he'd be lucky. And he was, I think, the oldest. But we had good times with some of those people.
Yeah.
But that Granberg and them, we were comfortable with them.
Yeah. That's what Levon was saying, that
Yeah.
it's just
More comfortable with
much
them.
different
Mhm.
atmosphere.
Because Dad's family was, one of Dad's uncle, it'd be Grandma Baldo's brother, was mayor of Long Beach, Haugen.
Right.
And they tell the story, Isaac and them, they said, well, he just thought he was too good to farm. He's too good to farm. So he went to California, and he was there in 1933. And he welcomed the president to Hoover, I suppose,
Yeah.
to Long Beach. But anyway, and Isaac told me that when he went to the car, when they closed the door, they closed it on his hand. And that hurt him. But they had that terrible earthquake then in 1933 in Long Beach. And
Yeah.
because the buildings were stuck and whatever, I don't know how many people were killed, but a lot of things were shaken down.
Yeah.
But Uncle Isaac said he was sitting out on the patio and he fell clean off the chair. I mean, clean off the chair.
Mm-hmm.
But I never bothered to go look, but we could get, from that side, we could get a lot of information from the courthouse
Okay.
in Long Beach. Because being a mayor of that size city was quite the thing.
Quite the deal, yeah.
That was, what was his name? Haugie.
I have it written down someplace.
Okay,
You know.
but Uncle Isaac saying that, I think thought he was too, he didn't like to be farming, he said. too dirty or something, you know what I mean?
I get the feeling that the Haugies were not well liked. Is that true or not? By you guys?
Well, we didn't
Were they-
really know them,
You know?
but they were big landowners, and I think they had more money. I think that's how Grandpa got his
Mhm.
money with land. I suppose when their daughter married him,
Right.
they
They
gave
gave
him
him some
land.
land, yeah.
See, they used to do that,
Yeah.
and he was the biggest landholder in Preble County,
The
That
Haugie.
Haugie.
Yeah.
is what I've heard. And I think some of the first settlers. But when you look back with their education stuff and all, Grandpa, the Bergs didn't do that. None of them went to high school or
Okay.
anything like that except Mom, which was kind of interesting.
No.
But it was really interesting when I look back now, comparing the families and the differences. There was really a cultural difference in because it was predominantly in Minnesota,
Well, there were different cultures. I mean, you know,
and predominantly it was Norwegians, but then the Germans came because they liked farming, you know. And then many Norwegian men married German women. I've talked to friends who lived in the Dakotas, and there was a lot of that. Or Norwegian, one or the other.
Right.
Usually the Norwegian men married the German women, not the other way around. Not that I know
No.
percentage or anything. I could guess, I suppose. Throw out a,
Well, it was interesting, and I don't know. It'd be interesting to know exactly why, but they all moved at the same time. The Germans from that port, whatever, it's Lower Saxony or what.
migrated at the same years.
Right, that sort of 1901 to 1902,
Yeah.
1903.
Immigration was big.
I was reading that half of some of these villages moved
Yeah,
and came over here, and most of them ended up, Buffalo Center and in that area.
there were pockets.
But there was something that caused them all to move
at the same time.
at the same time.
It must, I think, it could have been the war, Kaiser, could have been the war.
Yeah.
And
So I don't know the
and then
history that
I
well.
would think also reading about the opportunities in America. I
Right.
think that attracted people at that time for a better life.
Right, but they were always there. I mean, that's why the Norwegians came in the 1860s and 1870s. But there must have been some, like I said, maybe it's the Kaiser, maybe it was the politics of the way Germany was, the direction it was
Was
going.
going. I think.
But something caused this mass migration
Well, I think.
within a very short time. But it was interesting because they, like I said, they all came to the same general area.
Yeah, because that was a farming area.
Right.
They wouldn't go west because it was a lot of desert and
Right,
different weather.
right.
And they liked, and they all planted trees. All the farms had beautiful groves. That was really good because they liked trees.
Right. And there weren't no
and-
trees.
No. And then of course there's the sad story of the people who lived in the sod houses in the Dakotas. And it was very sad that they said the women would almost lose their mind by living there so isolated and such primitive.
Mhm.
I
Oh, yeah.
read stories about the sod house people,
Right.
and it was really tough. But these others, see, Chris's parents, they came early too, and they came one at a time. Like Dave came by himself, Chris's dad. He was just a young man, and he
So-
worked for.
So are they Norwegian? Is
Oh,
Chris-
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, and then he married a Norwegian girl, Bredesen. That was Norwegian.
All right.
And they were almost all Norwegian there. But there were pockets. They tended to go and live naturally with family or relatives or people like
Well,
Buffalo
they had
Center
to
was.
have, they had to have sponsors.
Oh yes.
So it would be a family member or whatever that they had
that
to then
sponsored them to
live
come.
in that.
And so, it, very definitely, I think, I don't know why I think more Germans came to Iowa than Minnesota.
Hmm.
Because everyone around Frost and Bryson, they were all Norwegian.
Yeah.
But in Iowa, Buffalo Center and Rake and them were all Germans. So I think, really, they even had a town called,
So Rake was a German town? No.
Norwegian.
Yeah.
But
okay.
there were some Germans, but there's
Okay.
it's pretty much Norwegian.
But they were Norwegian, and then south of there in Buffalo Center, and that's where
Woden,
the Germans.
Buffalo Center, and all those places were all German.
Yeah.
There was a town called Little Germany or something.
Hmm.
They changed the name during the war.
It must have been a terrible time
They changed
to-
the name.
to be German
Yeah, yeah.
during,
it was
especially
dur-
World War One. I mean, that would have been,
and World War II,
you know,
because a lot of they drafted people then, so a lot of their young men went to war, and so it was very hard on them because they were fighting against relatives.
yeah.
I remember them talking about that. But when that World War II was on, it was tough for people being German. They changed the name of that town in Iowa.
Hmm.
Not far from Rake, not far, I think it was called Little Germany or something,
Hmm.
but they changed the name. And like I said, Grandpa had a German paper all the time. And I don't remember the Norwegians had any special paper. Grandpa didn't have a Norwegian paper.
Yeah.
But we always grew up with the newspaper. Always.
Hmm.
And so there's some things unusual. But I can't think of them. There's so many. When I sit and think about it, boy, I can just see us kids playing in the grove and the stuff we did. We'd walk way down to the creek. We called it the creek. Now they say.
It's a drainage ditch, right?
No, it was a little
Was it?
river.
Was it a real creek
Well,
then?
yeah, it was a real creek. We'd go down there, make a little sack lunch and go down there, walk down there and have a little picnic and look for animals and stuff. By ourselves. We'd always be a pair. I'd be with Georgia.
Mhm.
And we did that a lot. And then in the winter, we'd go to walk down and we'd see the tracks of the animals, you know, going into their hidden place. We were pretty fascinated with that. It was a life in a small world in, say, isolation, because like we never got to cities or anything. But we were really aware of our environment.
Mhm.
We knew trees and berries. Like on that farm that we lived, there was gooseberries
Mhm.
and all kinds of mulberry trees,
Really.
crabapple trees, and another kind of a tree. So there were fruit trees that they planted, and then pine trees. So that's what they brought when they settled. They wanted.
Did you have? I mean, you mentioned that you had the horses.
Yeah.
Did you have cows or pigs?
Oh yeah.
Too.
Mhm.
More than just your own personal use?
One time they had a bunch of sheep come in, a sheep herder,
Okay.
and we had them on the farm. That
Hmm.
was something special, you know.
Yeah.
But we always had cows, but Mom never worked.
But just for your own use?
Yeah.
You didn't sell milk, it was
I-
just,
Ah,
it was predominantly crops that Grandpa did.
yeah.
It was a crop farm.
But I don't think we sold. I don't think we sold eggs.
Mhm.
We had chickens and pigs
Right,
and
right.
cows. I remember, I don't remember selling it.
Yeah.
I remember cream cream.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Separator.
Separator, and we had the cream and the milk, and then we churned butter. And I remember when margarine came in, and you had to put that, they had a little button that where you put in the margarine to make it yellow, and then you had to work it.
Really?
Yeah. You ever heard about that?
No.
It had a little red button, and you,
In the package.
yeah, and then you worked that margarine and it gave it its color. But I can remember when we used to churn butter, we put it in a jar, or we had another thing, and then you'd make your own butter by just shaking it, you know, and stuff like that. Because we never bought butter. I don't, when we were kids, we never bought butter or milk or cream or, and we